and you come to me and say, all right, Clint, now I'm thinking about selling. Is that realistic to imagine you could be there in 5 years?
Heck yeah. Yeah. I'm clipping out what you just said. I'm going to put it on my wall. That's like the vision right there.
I think if you came to me in that scenario, we might be talking million in enterprise value. And I don't think that's aggressive. I think that's reasonable. A lot of this is going to depend on, are people really delighted with that community long term?
Some days we keep on rolling.
All right. Welcome back to Inspired or Acquired. This is the podcast where we have real business owners on and give them a valuation of what their business could be worth, find out if they might sell it or if they want to hold on for the long term. So I'm here with my co-host Clint, and we are joined by Josh Hall from Web Designer Pro. Josh, how are you?
I'm great, Patrick. It's good to see you again, man. Clint, thanks for having me on. Excited to be, I guess, one of the first, right? So I don't know if this is like setting the bar high or getting the bad ones out of the way first. We'll see.
Setting the bar high. We knew you'd be a good guest and come prepared as a podcast pro. So that's why you're here.
All right.
I also will get into this, but I do think you bring a unique perspective having one exit under your belt. But tell us about Web Designer Pro and tell us what you do. And then Clint will maybe ask you more about the business.
Yeah, my business now is education for web designers, primarily on the business side of web design. So I help web designers build and scale their web design business at all levels. My early stage web designers who are just building their business that are trying to hit 25, 50,000 a year. I've got a lot of students who are closing in and have exceeded six figures. And then some of my top tier students in my community, some of them are up to 300,000 annually already. So that's kind of my sweet spot in between six figures and about $500,000 web design business. And that's what I teach on.
Very cool. And what are you selling? Is it courses? Is it a mastermind group membership, or like what exactly are you selling?
All of the above inside of Web Designer Pro now. It is kind of the big three courses. So I have an entire suite of courses to help web designers with not only the web design side of things, but build their web design business. Community. So the Web Designer Pro community, just second to none, absolutely amazing people inside the community. And a lot of people have said they come for the courses and they stay for the community, which has been really cool. And then coaching. There's an aspect of coaching in it where members have direct access to me, and I go live every week for Q&A sessions and website reviews. So coaching, community, and courses all together inside of my community, Web Designer Pro.
Very cool. Do you mind if we just jump into kind of the numbers and play 20 questions with you real quick? I'm going to put on my business broker hat and just treat you like any other, business owner that comes in and says, hey, Clint, I'm thinking about selling. What's my business worth? So tell me about your top line numbers. Like, what's your sales been the last few years and how is that trending?
So we just hit 275,000 annually ARR. So we're at a really good place now and a really good foundation. My business has gone through a big time pivot and shift over the past year and a half. Before this, I was selling courses up front. And just one-off courses, a lot of launches, a lot of really big months and very low months, but they evened out to be about $250,000 to $300,000 business, depending on the year. Last year, when I created Web Designer Pro and put it all together in this membership, it was actually extremely difficult and very, very tough. So I went through like painful pivot. Some of it was intentional. Some of it was unintentional. I wasn't super clear about how to sell a membership first. So I went from courses first to membership on the back end to now membership first to courses on the back end. So my business was actually down over $100,000 between 2022 and 2023, right after my family moved in a new house too. So not ideal timing, very, very scary. But what I've learned with memberships is that every month, as long as new members are coming in and you're reducing your churn, it's freaking awesome. It's stable. And now I'm curious to hear from you guys what the evaluation would be on a 275,000. And we're really scratching the surface. It's going up every month. So my plan is over the next 2 years to make this into $500,000 business. So we have a good foundation, and that's annual, that's recurring revenue. So we're at 275 now. Yeah.
What does your organization look like?
As far as the people, team, and stuff
Yeah,
like
the
that,
people that work with you.
it's just a few contractors. I have a podcast that is my lead, my biggest generator of customers and members in my community. So I have an editor, I have a VA who help out with that, and that's it for the podcast. And then I have a couple web design contractors who will do work for me if and when needed, for kind of more tech related stuff and some website development stuff. And then I do have somebody in my community who's kind of acting as a semi community manager who I'll probably eventually hire in some role. And then I hire out some social media help. But my monthly expenses with team are under 1,500 a month right now. Actually, 2,000 depending, probably average 2,000 if I'm hiring some development help.
So it sounds like you got great margins. Could you tell me about on that 275K in last year, for example, how much of that are you able to take home?
I'm taking home a pretty big share right now. I'm not keeping much profit in the business currently just because my business was
Mhm.
down 100,000 for about a year and a half period. So a lot of the savings my family built up in full transparency, we went through during that tough season while I was doing the pivot and while I was building this back up. I should say too, though, that's just on the membership. I am still selling courses one off. If somebody
Mhm.
doesn't want the membership, and I have some affiliate income and then some sponsorship income now as well. So there's a few different channels, but the main one is the membership. So
Yeah.
on conservatively, I'll do 300 this year in 2024. And then in 2025, I want to hit 500,000. So I'm taking, apart from expenses and taxes, I'm really not keeping much profit in the business, but I'm also betting on myself that I'll hit the 500,000 in a couple years, and then I'll be able to keep a lot more profit in the business.
So you're saying you're probably paying taxes on 200 plus thousand of
Hmm.
income
Yep.
with that 205. Okay.
Yep. We have a
So,
pretty good tax set up. My business is an S corp, so I end up
mhm.
paying a lot less currently with quarterly taxes, and I actually got a pretty big break this year because my business, we overpaid in taxes for 2023 because my
Yeah.
business was down. So I actually got quite a bit back. So yeah, it's I'm really barely keeping any profit. I just have enough in the account to keep the business going, and then a little bit of buffer. But I'm betting on myself essentially through 2025 to get more profit.
Cool. I'm ready to render a verdict. I'm pretty opinionated here, so I'm just gonna throw out like a knee jerk reaction here. I think you have a fantastic business.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have a lifestyle business. I think it's great for you and your family, but I almost think it's impossible to sell right now. I would almost put an unsellable stamp on this, and that's hard to say because it's making such great margins. It's got recurring revenue. It's got a great model. So it's a great business, but it's going to be extremely hard to sell. Anyone that would want to buy it today, they would want to buy you. Like they would want to lock you in because you're the central figure of this thing and you've got this great kind of supporting cast around you, but it's kind of the Josh show to an extent, and that's great for you, your family, your lifestyle, but it's not great for enterprise value. It's not great for transferable value to a buyer. So I just wanted to rip the band-aid off and say, like, yeah, like if you came to me to sell your business, I would be like, do not sell your
Yeah.
business. Like, keep it, because you're not going to like any of the structures that, someone might buy in that believes in you and believes this is going to be, a much bigger business down the road, and says, hey, how about I just get a share of this and help you grow it, and we'll do this together. So like you could potentially get an investor to help you scale, but in terms of like what would it be worth as 100% outright sale, almost nothing. Like
Yeah.
that's my brutal feedback. Is like great business, not an easy one to sell.
Yeah, it is a lifestyle business as of now.
Yeah,
What's interesting about this though is the term and the label, the brand name Web Designer Pro
yeah,
is actually literally a year old. Prior to that,
yeah.
I was selling all my courses and all my stuff under my personal brand, joshhall.co, which was really not sellable. And
yeah, I can see you making the moves. I can see you putting pillars in place and like putting puzzle pieces in place so that you can turn that corner. So
that's exactly
I
right.
want to talk about that with you. Yeah, so like let's talk about, you know, a 5-year plan. Let's just kind of whiteboard this out of like what could Web Designer Pro look like inside of 5 years, that not only we kind of have a two goals. Like you make more money, take home more money for your family, and like make up for those years that were tough during that pivot and transition, pad your savings and all that. And let's also start building this thing into something that you could sell someday. Because, you know, we always want to have a business that you never want to sell, but you could if you had to, you know, and because we never know what life's going to throw at us. And it's great to own a business that is sellable and is transferable to a buyer. So, you know, what it sounds like you've got some moves going there. Like, what's your basic plan? Tell me your 5-year vision, where you're going with this thing. Where do you think, if you think it can be 500,000 in what, 3 years, you said, or 2 years?
I'm pretty confident I could do 500,000 by 2025. So I think within 5 years, it could be a 7-figure business for sure. Yeah. And you're right. I'm in phase 1 of this. Essentially, and Patrick alluded to this, I had sold my web design agency, which I had built up for over 10 years. It was not a sexy sell. Happy to talk about that. But what I learned is that I went from a freelancer to creating a business and then selling that business to teach full time with this project. And then I made another job. I essentially made another job as a personal brand. And now I'm making it into a business again. So I've gone from making a job and making a business my second time at it. This time, though, it'll be worth a lot more eventually if I choose to exit. I have no intention right now to necessarily exit, but you're right, Clint. It would be nice in about 5 years to know I had the option, or if I did want to move on in any way or pivot it or change it, I could have that option. So yeah, my plan to make it into to the 7-figure mark and make it worth a lot more is essentially to get less of me, like less reliant on me, which would mainly be an aspect of bringing in almost like mini Joshes, like coaches, which I'm actually secretly, maybe not so secretly now, already starting to do. So I have members in my community who are almost like where I was 5 years ago, to where they're teaching what they've known about growing their business. And they're basically like coaches. It's kind of it would be a standard education style membership where you have the founder. A lot of the content is created by me, which a lot of it could be repurposed or I could redo if and when needed. But ongoing coaching, ongoing content creation, and help and support at a basic level would be by other coaches or just the content. And then I will be year by year increasingly either more expensive to get to or tougher to get to for everyone publicly. Like it's just, it would have to be like a higher coaching tier to work with me directly. So that's where I'm moving towards in the next 5 years.
That's awesome. I can totally see that playing out and making it more valuable. I think the other thing that comes to mind as you're talking is, as you grow this, there could maybe be strategic buyers who aren't just looking at cash flow, right? And a couple examples that come to mind, like HubSpot bought The Hustle, which is like a community that Sam Parr had built up, and they bought it for 20 million or something, right? Because they wanted those entrepreneurs who might sign up for HubSpot, right? Or Alex Hermosi, built a big, gym coaching business and sold it. And since then, he's bought other consulting and course businesses in like other B2B markets, right? So whether is Divi the main platform that a lot of your students are in?
So that's what's interesting. I'm actually agnostic now for website builders. So we have people using all sorts of websites, and that's where the focus is really about just broad website business principles, not necessarily tool or topical. I found that to be a very, very fragile place to be into if you do things that are on tools, because sometimes popularity decreases or increases on tools. There's already been a big shift over the past few years in the different types of website builders. So yeah, I'm going less tool specific and more just broad business, which gives me a lot of leverage to be able to dip in and out of trends and things like that. And what's interesting about where I'm at too is there are a lot of comparable memberships and coaching platforms that I'm actually already partnering up with. So there's one called Agency Mavericks that really teaches like the 500,000 7-figure agency, and I don't really serve that crowd, so it's actually a perfect partner for me, and vice versa, because I get people to 500,000, they can go to 7 and multi 7 figures. That's not my bread and butter, and vice versa.
Nice.
If they have someone who's just starting but really serious, they can come to Web Designer Pro and then get to that point eventually. So as far as an acquisition could go eventually, if that were to ever come down, I could see something like that working, where it's almost like a
That's a good
partner
synergy.
situation
That's
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Another play I've seen with a couple of our clients is they've had courses and coaching, and then they've developed some other products. So there was a lady that was in the social media space, and then she created a SaaS tool. And then we have a client who's kind of medical. I'll just leave it at that, like medical field type. And then she's also building out a certification business and a school to be able to get people trained. So I definitely think as you have all this exposure and see the trends, you'll have plenty of opportunities to maybe, develop additional revenue streams that make this thing more valuable, or maybe tempt you to exit the main one and then focus on another product.
Well, let me run a hypothetical by you, Josh. Let's pretend we're talking in 5 years. The revenue of Web Designer Pro broke $1 million recently. You've been maintaining phenomenal margins, so you're running at maybe 70% net, which I think is possible with your model. You agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
So maybe you've got this lifestyle business where you've it's now not so much a lifestyle business. It's turned into a real business. Putting 700K to the bottom line. You're taking home maybe half that for your family, leaving the rest in the company to do other investments and for growth and strategic, initiatives there. And it's just this sexy recurring revenue business. You've got coaches coaching people. Any of the manual parts of this where you're hand holding clients, you pretty much have delegated to people you trust to do it your way. You're in lots of the videos and the figurehead of the company still, but you're not serving critical sales or delivery of the services functions. And so you're able to be, business owner most of the time and marketer and figurehead. And you come to me and say, all right, Clint, now I'm thinking about selling. Is that realistic to imagine you could be there in 5 years?
Yeah. I'm clipping out what you just said. I'm going to put it on my wall. That's like the vision right there.
Yeah. I think if you came to me in that scenario, like we might be talking 2 to 3 million in enterprise value. And I don't think that's aggressive. I think that's reasonable, especially if a lot of this is going to depend on the stickiness of those customers. So that are people really delighted with that community long term? Do I have to keep selling brand new customers every year, or can I steward the relationships that you've built? And so that lifetime customer value is going to be a big factor. Your churn rate is going to be a big factor, and your growth rate and all that will factor into the value. So anything that's recurring revenue, scales well, tech oriented, the values can vary wildly. So I don't want you to key in on that so much, but I think at least it would be a couple $1,000,000. But sometimes it can be much higher if you've dialed in all the stuff just right. And you've got a big money strategic, like Patrick was mentioning, that wants to do a strategic deal with you.
Yeah.
So would that change your life? Would you consider a sale for, let's say, $2.5 million in a
I don't
less
think
than
I
5 years
would.
down
I wouldn't consider it unless I could get it to 5. That doesn't 2.5 or 2 to 3 just doesn't. That doesn't feel life changing as of now. I mean, it would be, but I'm 37. That would be I wouldn't sell until I could do 5 to 10. I feel like that would be be like more life changing kind of figures.
What's the logic behind that? So take us inside your thinking, because you're 37, you've got a family, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. 3 kiddos under 5. Yep.
Okay, so young
Right up there with
kids,
Patrick.
Right on, right on. I love it, man. So, and you've done an exit before. We didn't talk about that. What was your other exit?
It was not. It was 150,000, and basically,
Yeah.
I'm repaid back every quarter, part of the profit that the business takes in. So that was main. I mean, and the problem was, I really kind of like you alluded to earlier. Mostly created the job. I had some recurring
Mhm.
income with clients, so I basically just sold my recurring income plan to support clients and a client list. That's what I sold. But my online course business was taken off. I was just like, I'm just kind of I just felt done serving clients and I wanted to go full time
Yeah.
teaching. I knew it would be able to blow up a lot faster. And that's what I really enjoyed doing. So, yeah, that's kind of, it was almost like a beta run, like a trial of selling, but I knew I wasn't going to have the bandwidth to build it to make it a $1 million sale or something. So
Mhm.
yeah, I actually sold it to one of my students who had no capital, and I'm just being repaid over time. I'm essentially like a consultant for it. But
Yeah.
that actually works to my benefit now because I'm still the founder of that agency. So I'm still kind of in the game a little bit. So that's why I sold it in the way I did.
Cool. Yeah. So you've had a small exit. You've never had a 7-figure exit. So this would be a new level for you to have that level of interest or that type of offer on the table. But you're saying I wouldn't take it. You're thinking 5 million plus would be where you'd start getting tempted. What's your logic there? Like, because you're still going to be young,
Mhm.
like even if you got your business to the 5 million value in 5 to 10 years from now, you're
I,
only going to be early
I guess,
early 40s.
I guess as of now,
Yeah.
and mainly because this is what I do. I don't really have a like 10 to 15 year vision. I don't know if I were to sell for 2 million conservatively, like I don't know how long that money is going to last my family, depending on, I don't even know too much about the investment world like that. I'm going to have to like grow up and be an adult with big sums of money. So I have a lot to learn there, to make that money, like grow more money. So all that to say, I guess that would be, I'm opposed to 2 million if I were to like retire. Now, if I had
Hmm.
another business plan in mind and I knew pretty confidently what I'd do for the next 5 to 10 years after that, that I would be very interested in. But I have no plans on being outside of of this space for quite a while. Probably at least 10 years, I imagine, staying in the web design entrepreneurial space. Now, I may build something. I could definitely see myself building something on the side again, like I've done here, and maybe
Mhm.
appeal to just more broad entrepreneurs and business owners. But I would only, I guess, 2 million would only sound good if I had another $1 million business ready to take
Yeah.
off. Yeah.
So if the Columbus Blue Jackets came to your door with a bag of cash and said, "Sell your business and come be director of media for our NHL hockey
Director of
team,"
media.
maybe that would
Oh, I think I'll
maybe
just
that would
stay a
tempt you.
fan. I don't want to see how this sausage is made. Yeah.
Okay, got it. I'm with you because I think that there's often that like the number sounds good on paper, and then you're like, what would I do next?
And that's the thing.
So
Yeah. If I was really confident, like, yeah, I have this whole other business. Yeah, maybe I would be very apt to doing that. Cause that would still be like, it would be incredible to have a couple 7 figures just drop there. But yeah, I guess I would think like if that's going to support my family for the rest of my life, that wouldn't fly. But um,
hmm.
yeah, maybe in 5 years, this would be a really interesting conversation.
So just to push a little further, like you have a huge addressable market. Like, why couldn't it be bigger? Like, um, do you feel like it has to grow organically and one member tells another, or um, I mean, there's so many people that would love to be able to make that type of money and work from home and have their own business. I just feel like there's a massive market for you, but
There are you thinking, Patrick, like, do you feel like getting to 7 figures is almost too low
I
for one
almost feel like if you can get this to like 500K like ARR, you could get it to 3 million
company?
ARR. Like that's where my head's at. Like if you really figure out, and you said it's growing consistently, right?
Yeah.
Like it it just feels like one of those huge markets, and and you do a great thing to be able to help them run their own business and get them up that path that you were talking about. Like
I think,
I guess I'm just challenging to say like, why
yeah.
not think bigger, or why couldn't it be bigger?
No, I appreciate that challenge. Yeah, I mean, my focus is on, and I think because I was very confident in my business, and I was not expecting the drop that we did have, that it was a little bit like, it was a little humbling for me. I got a
Mm,
little cocky, a little content. Like every year previous to that, we were just going up and going up. And personally, there was a big shift in the courses market and the online education market with courses in the wake of AI, and frankly, just courses being ripped off. Like every single course online you can get for free. Every course, it's ripped off. It's all ripped off. One of my courses got ripped off. I was paying a company $300 a month to get it taken down. They're all ripped off. All that to say, I think community is what changes the game for memberships, because it's
mm,
not just about content. It's about community and coaching. So to get to like the multi 7-figure range, I think that's where I would probably have to have a different lower tier that's very scale oriented, and that would obviously require no extra time on my end. So it would be, right now I'm doing one to many to get to, and I think my model right now could get us to 7 figures just with more growth and more strategic things on the beginning stages of things. But I think to get to multi 7 figures, I'd probably have to, yeah, figure out a way to grow at scale with different real, like a lot of different barriers with tiers, basically.
yeah.
Mhm.
What's the membership price at now?
So it's $199 flat per month right now. The
Got it.
next phase of this, but that's because I'm coaching every member directly. And some of my members are grandfathered in from the original rate, which is 99. And then occasionally I'll do like 10% off or 50% off. So it's average members, it's actually like 150 per member a month.
Mm,
The next phase of this, because I am capping at 250 members solely because I'm personally involved with all these
yeah.
members. The next phase is this tier of Web Designer Pro will be capped because I do the coaching, and then prices will continue to go up. The first tier, though, that's open to everybody, and that's going to be 99 a month. So that's
Nice.
where we could scale. That's where I feel confident to scale this to 500. And then to get to 1 million, we could continue to grow at that level. And then if we were to have a smaller tier or different products that would be at mass, that would be
Yeah.
much more appealing to people who are, all over the world and at mass, then I think that's where we could get to the multi 7-figure. But that would be definitely off the back of like smaller priced and lower ticket items at mass type of
Got it.
scale.
Got it.
Yeah.
Is there
So
anyone
Todd,
that you look to that's bigger? Obviously, like I just think of I just know a couple off the top of my head, like the really big ones, like Pat Flynn and folks like that. But is there
Yeah.
anyone that is kind of
Yeah, so Pat Flynn and his CEO Matt, I'm following their model very closely. Yeah, so Matt actually is here in Columbus, Ohio as well, and I've the big fortune of being able to see him every once in a while, and he's given me some really good insight on what they're doing, and they don't even sell their courses one-off anymore. They've moved to 100% community focused.
mm,
Their motto is similar to mine as far as like the next phase I could get to, which is they have a pro community that is higher end, and then they
mhm.
have a student community that's at mass. So that's definitely where I could foresee this getting to eventually, is again, um, either tiered access to Web Designer Pro that's pretty drastically different between what I'm involved with and just my content that hits the masses. And then, yeah, maybe even a separate community or just products that fit
mhm.
before Pro. It's kind of what I'm thinking.
Got it. Got it. I'll say, for me, I love these types of things. I'm a big consumer. So, I own an accounting firm and I'm into accounting specific masterminds. And then I go to the conferences, and then I'm into, business membership groups that are not industry specific. And I just get a ton of energy and like knowledge out of it. So I think there's a ton of runway for you, whether it's like that higher tier, or maybe you know, start to do peer groups or
Yeah.
something like
And
that.
that's basically what I've done this first phase. Like Clint said, it's the first pillar of this. It's really, it was creating Web Designer Pro, figuring out my offer, figuring out how to sell it, build a community. My churn rate is under 5% for a year, which
amazing.
is really, really good. But that's testament also to the price point and to the members who have come into this. So that's basically what I've done is like the middle of the offer is what I'm building now. Next will be the beginning part of the offer. And then, or maybe even first, I might do the top tier, which would be more direct coaching at a higher price point. That may be $2,000 a month for people who want that. But that's going to require more time on my end, which is not the sellable aspect. And I just don't have much more time right now. So, but that might be something I offer capped. I might do like 10 spots a month or something if it's going to be a $2,000 a month type of thing or something. So that's going to help as well.
Yeah. So just to kind of put a context around this, Josh, I just met you today, so we don't have a relationship until just now. Just Patrick's known you before this, but I just see you as this classic entrepreneur. Like, I see entrepreneur DNA all over your face. I see that passion for your niche and for your customers shining through you. And the universal thing about true entrepreneurs, people that have it beating in their heart, beating in their blood, is like, you can't retire, you can't stop, you can't slow down. You got to be going. Like, you're a force of nature. You're going all the time. You're building something. And so, just for the audience here, like, you can't pry a business out of a guy like this's hands. The only way you can buy a business from a young entrepreneur that's not 70 plus years old, and sometimes not even when they're 70 years old, like this continues, is if they have a vision for something else they would rather be doing with their time. Like, until you get there, until Josh gets there, it doesn't matter if his business is worth 2 million, 5 million, or even 20 million, or like, until he has a vision for where he's going to go next with his life, he's not going to be able to imagine what he would do just sitting around with a pile of money, and it's not going to be that appealing to him. So this is kind of a neat thought exercise to just kind of hear him. He probably hasn't thought about this consciously that much, but it's neat to see him kind of coming to these realizations right here on this call with us. And so Josh, I just
put up a big not for sale sign.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's probably why, that's probably why the idea of like a $2 to $3 million thing doesn't excite me, because I'm like, I love what I do, and I would probably just sit at home taking care of the kiddos, and I probably want to like join my friends in Web Designer Pro. So like, it's what I would do anyway. Yeah, you're totally right. Like, I would have no interest in selling unless something else was ahead, and I knew like, ooh, I want it now. I'm feeling done with this. Now I want to move into this. So.
Yeah.
But I still want to make it. I still want to bring it to 7 figures and eventually multi-7. But I'm also, and I'm pretty realistically singular focused on like realistic goals. I'm all about thinking big. I also know a $3 million business as a membership looks way different than what I have right now with like a $500,000 to even $1 million. So I'm kind of like, let me hit that first, and then we'll look at the next step. It's kind of how I operate.
Do you get any shiny object syndrome in the meantime? You're like, what if we built this WordPress plugin, and you just picture like that money coming in, or like
that's the thing. That's the thing.
This scale. Squarespace one, or
that's the scale thing that I've always been like. Like, I have a friend who's like a incredible developer, and I remember one time we were hanging out, and he's like, dude, because he's just a salary guy. He's like, we could build a plugin, and we got 100,000 customers at this price point. Oh my gosh, we can make like $10 million. But then I immediately go to like, we're gonna have to have like a support team, and then it's just gonna be headaches, and I don't really want to do that. It's just a whole different thing that I don't personally love. Like, yeah, that's I want to help as many web designers as I can, but I also would need to be very tactful about what scale would look like for me. And I think that's why like my focus is on the lifestyle approach. I also, like you, Patrick, like we got young kids. I don't want to be working 90-hour weeks. If I can continue to grow my business to 500,000 and then 1 million in a few years while retaining this work-life balance I've achieved, then that to me is a big win. And then we'd be able to look at kind of the next step. But honestly, I've just known so many people who, they just don't seem like they love their days. And I'm like, man, if you're gonna have your business, I feel like you should love your days. And I want to make more and more for sure, but not at the expense of not seeing my family or just doing work that I'm like, oh, I can't wait to sell this thing one day. That's just not my personal style.
That's great. I 100% agree. I think our businesses should serve our lives, and that our lives are more important than money. It's God, family, business, like all those parts are important to me, more than the business part. So that's awesome. I appreciate that mindset. Support you in that. And so yeah, I'm feeling, Patrick, like it's safe to put the inspired stamp on Josh here. So we're trying to answer this universal question of all business owners: are you inspired to keep going with your business long term, or do you feel like you're getting to a point where start thinking about getting acquired? And for now, it sounds like, right now, not in a good position to sell. Even within 5 years, probably still not going to be looking to sell. You got a lot of runway in front of you. You got a lot of work to do to build this into something that could be sellable for multiple seven figures someday, but it's possible. And you're putting the right pieces in place. And so I say just keep riding that passion as long as you can. Keep building this thing to make yourself less and less important over time as you serve more customers and create more systems and more leadership inside this company. And Web Designer Pro will be a staple business for tons of web designers. And just as a sidebar, I 100% agree with Patrick that these business models are 100% necessary right now. Um, I am a member of several different masterminds and membership groups because it is lonely when you're building these new school businesses serving clients and you don't have the traditional like uh, office structure, and you're a lot of us are building these really fun decentralized niche businesses, but you still need community, you still need peer groups, you still need sharpening, you still need coaching. And so if you're a listener and you're not part of a peer group or you're not part of a mastermind or community, find one that fits your niche and get involved. If you're a web designer in that range that Josh was talking about earlier, go to Web Designer Pro and join. It seems like a no brainer to get involved. So I appreciate what you do. I think sometimes masterminds and communities get a bad rap, but I'm like, man, it's a life it's a lifesaver. Like you need support, you need coaching, and you need community if you're going to become all that you can be and as a modern entrepreneur today. So I really do appreciate, and hats off to you for what you're building there.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Two takeaways for me here. Like, this was really good for me to think about the next 5 years in particular. Very timely too, because I just got to the point where I reflected back on this past year and like things are on the upswing again. Things are a good foundation is built. And now I'm in this like season of vision casting and really looking at like what will it take to have these financial goals at 500,000, then eventually 1 million. What does the business model look like? What does our offers look like? So this actually really helped get me in like the business owner mindset again. I tend to go in do mode and just do. It's really good to have this as a framework to look forward to. And then even, Patrick, you encouraged me to think bigger. Sometimes it's nice to hear somebody say this thing should be way bigger than it is. So I had an entrepreneur guy one time tell me like, I'm surprised you're not making more. And I was like, I am too. And he's like, we got to look at your offers then. It's probably your offers just aren't right. So all great stuff, guys. I appreciate this.
I love that. Appreciate the feedback. So if people want to connect with you and find you online, where should they go?
You can go to webdesignerpro.com. That will zip you over to everything you need to know. I'm still in the middle of having my personal brand, have a lot of my resources in pro. So they're both seamless right now, but depending on when this comes out, Web Designer Pro will get you need to go. Or webdesignerpro.com will get you where you need to go.
Perfect. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.